Howdy. I was just editing this video and I wanted to take a second to address the events in this chapter. And once again, second video in a row where I'm reading fan fiction that has parallels to real world events happening right now. If you see me looking down, it's because I prepared some thoughts so that I don't just ramble incoherently. It's still kind of ranty and it's still gonna be wonky in the end, but some organization to my thoughts. I joked a lot during filming about how cartoonish and over the top the bullying in my fanfiction was. And yet, when I was writing it, I was employing tropes, bullying tropes from pop culture and other media that I had consumed. Roughly a week after shooting this video, I heard about the death of Benedict. I wanted to talk about this for a number of reasons, one of which being the parallels between Nex's death and the lunchroom fight scene. You know, namely the queer-phobic bullying that turns violent, the fact it's in a school environment, and that the teachers don't care and don't intervene. And on top of everything, the scene ends with Frank going to the hospital with a head injury. Like I said in my last video, it wouldn't feel right to make jokes about the scenarios in my fanfiction when something like it is happening in real life and people are dying because of it. As I mentioned previously, I didn't really experience bullying in school. There were some ignorant morons, but their hate wasn't usually very targeted at anyone. It was more just spewing garbage. Learning about what happened to Benedict and seeing other queer students speak up about the abuse that they've experienced at the hands of their peers and teachers and staff really made me reflect on how lucky I was to not experience this stuff when I was in high school. In high school, I was never made to feel unsafe about expressing myself. We had, a bunch of teachers would have those stickers that say, like, this is a queer safe space or LGBTQ safe space. And, we had a wonderful queer group, like, the Safe Club, that was run by a lesbian teacher who I adored and would always take us to Pride every year. She would carpool everyone to Pride and we would all go, and it was just the highlight of my life going there for the first time. My favorite time of the year every single year is Pride, the Pride Festival, because I love there's nothing I love more in the world than seeing all these other queer people being themselves so openly and celebrating each other and celebrating themselves and just loving each other. It makes me unbelievably happy to witness. And I had a teacher in high school who ran the queer club and would carpool everyone there and if they didn't have a ride. And, when there was harassment in school, it was usually shut down pretty fast. There was one year where some asshole express ordered a t-shirt that said men have penises and women have vaginas. And he express ordered it for Trans Day of Remembrance, which is just a super cool move, super fun, super funny. And before first period, he was told to cover it up with his sweatshirt. And, in first period, he was sneakily showing it to his friends and laughing about it. And the teacher was like, "What's so funny?" And I was like, "His shirt is transphobic." And then everyone looked at me like I ruined the joke. And I know that this is a side note, but I tweeted about this incident afterwards, and some people from school found my Twitter account and found my tweets and started replying with stupid shit, culminating in the funniest reply I've ever gotten. I cannot emphasize enough. These dudes from my school posed with a Bible, praising it literally it looks like a Wojak meme. They're all like, "Yep, It's the book that gave me my first prostate orgasm. We passed it around after football practice. Oh, it's so stupid. Like, I want to know so badly, like, did they all happen to be hanging out with each other when they were tweeting at me and were like, hey, let's pose for this photo. Let's really own the queers with this. And they took the photo? Or did they, like, take this photo at a different time? Were they all hanging out at some point and decided, you know what? I just really want to commemorate this moment of all of us bonding with this Bible, with just a really sick picture in front of the mantle, like in front of the fireplace in my living room. Let's all, and like, and if that's the case, what was the original purpose of it? Why? It's my favorite reply I've ever gotten. But anyways, like, there were some idiots, there were some assholes, but like, it wasn't really serious bullying. It was just like, honestly, more than anything, I found it funny. Because it was just shit like that. And I'm like, another instance was like oh my God, another instance of like my school being actually really awesome is that every year we had what we called cross-dressing day, where cis students were encouraged to dress as the opposite gender. Therefore, it would make it a safe way for closeted trans students to express themselves how they wanted to without fear of repercussions or anything like that, or fear of being made fun of, which is just such a magnificent thing. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And I know back then I did definitely appreciate like how awesome it was, but like, especially now reflecting on all this, I'm like, my school was awesome. Like, I was so unbelievably lucky to have a school that was so supportive of queer people. Oh yeah, but like on cross-dressing day, the usual group of idiots, like all pinned Bible verses to their shirts that were like, men can't wear women's clothes, it's a sin. And like, to me, that's just stupid. That was so stupid. It was hilarious. But yeah, like the bigotry, that's about where it left off. Though there was an incident, I won't go fully into it, where like my best friend was being harassed because she took a picture flipping off an American flag as a joke and someone posted it without her permission. And it got around and like she got a lot of backlash for it over a picture that, was just like a joke. It was just like a funny joke. She was like in costume for a play and like she was almost kicked out of the play for it. And then like, this group of idiots like would always like take pictures flipping off the trans flag, which is like, who fucking cares? But then they would also like, call her shit and, kind of verbally harass her a bit. And that sucks. But like, I never witnessed anything remotely violent. But yeah, in high school, personally, for me, I can't say for certain that there was like no violent offenses against queer people in the school. But from what I saw, from what I experienced, and, from my understanding, I never felt unsafe to be myself, like physically unsafe. And that is a privilege that not everyone has. In fact, a lot of people don't have that. Though, of course, I did kind of fear for my safety, but that was more because a large portion of the school population were Bible-humping, camel-clad hunters who sported the Confederate flag for fun. And that part did scare me a little bit. Those people did kind of make me nervous. But, I mean, that's also just part of the American public school experience. Since starting testosterone about 8 months ago, I've found that it's harder for me to cry. Like, before this, I have had a lot of issues with like crying a lot when I was younger. I found it harder to cry. Just, that's a normal side effect of testosterone. But when I read about the death of Benedict, I sobbed for an entire afternoon. I couldn't stop sobbing. It shattered my heart. If anyone out there isn't aware, I believe it was February 9th or something. Next Benedict was a 16-year-old gender fluid kid in Oklahoma who was beaten very badly in a school bathroom by 3 girls. They weren't offered help, and the next day, they died. Even in my fanfic, which I thought was just cartoonish levels of bullying, someone still called an ambulance for Frank when he had a head injury. No one called an ambulance for Nex. Next Benedict loved taking care of their cat Zeus. They loved drawing, they loved cooking, they loved playing Minecraft and The Walking Dead. By all accounts, they were just a wonderful kid. I don't want to make this about myself, and I deeply, deeply apologize if it comes off that way. But when I look at Nex and I hear what they're like, and I see how, like, even how they pose for photos and their love of cats and drawing, I see myself at that age. Like, 16-year-old me and Nex, I think, would have been good friends. And I'm very protective of my younger self, and obviously, you know, Nex was their own person, and they had their own world. They had people they loved, they had people who loved them. They had dreams and aspirations, and they had wonderful ideas in their head, and they had things they wanted to do. I'm sorry if I start crying during this. I'll try and keep it under control. I'm a man now, after all. But when I first read about Nex's death, I could immediately imagine myself in high school in that position, just going to the bathroom and then having your life drastically changed before it's cut short because they went to the fucking bathroom and the school didn't protect them. When I was about their age in high school, the trans bathroom debate was just popping off. And I remember I had a teacher who, you know, would always start class with, you know, debates about current events and stuff. And he would always be like, well, but it would just be a bad look if I was at the urinal and a girl walked in. And I would always pipe up and be like, yeah, but like everyone's going to the bathroom to use the bathroom. No one's like looking at anyone. No one should care about what other people are doing in the bathroom, etc., etc. And he would always be like, well, but it would be a bad look. And I'm like, anyways, what we're seeing now is the ripple effect of that. And it's gotten worse. It's gotten so much worse. Once again, I don't want to make this about myself, and I'm very sorry, but hearing about Nex made me sort of reflect on my gender journey. I'm 8 months on testosterone. My body and my voice and my face are all finally changing in ways I had just dreamed and ached for. And I don't want to assume what Nex's plans were, if any, to transition medically, or what their ideal outcome would have been, or, you know, any of their plans, anything that they wanted to do. I don't know. And if they didn't have any plans to medically transition, that's absolutely valid, and they absolutely should have been able to experience that in whatever they dreamed. That being said, I can't help but wonder and imagine if they did have plans of medically transitioning, if they wanted top surgery, if they wanted hormones, if they wanted anything they wanted. I came out as non-binary at 15, and I was about 17 when I realized that I wanted to transition medically. And it was an additional 6 years after that that I finally did it. During that time, I tried so desperately to be okay with my body as it was and to just make it work. I just learn to cope. I had a lot of well-meaning but misguided friends and family and loved ones who would always say things like, you're not in a good enough mental place to do this, or what exactly about transitioning would make you feel better about yourself, or is this internalized misogyny, or anything like that. And all of those voices, all of those sayings were, I internalized them, and it made me doubt myself and doubt my feelings for a long time. But no matter what, that feeling that something needed to change wouldn't go away. I couldn't keep it down. I had a night last year where I came home from a night out. I had like a really cute outfit on. I had my makeup all done. My hair was amazing. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I can't find a single thing wrong with my appearance. I look amazing. I love the way I look right now. I'm stunning. But there was still something I couldn't connect with. There was still something itching underneath my skin. Something not right. And I knew it's time. It's time to transition. It's time to go on T. And I haven't regretted it for a second. Another way I sort of figured out it was time was I started observing myself, and observing my emotions in times of gender euphoria. Like if I wore a really cool outfit that made me feel more masculine, or if my hair was looking awesome, or like talking about transitioning or talking about my transition plans. Any of those little moments, I observed my feelings, and what would happen was I would get this rush of like excitement and joy, and then those voices of doubt would creep in and put a damper on it and be like, well, but it could be internalized misogyny. It could be that I just want an escape from how I feel about myself right now, or just any of these voices of doubt would just creep in and put a damper on the fun. But I know I eventually started taking notice of the fact that my gut reaction, the first thing I felt was joy, and I chased it. And I am so glad that I pushed through everything. I pushed through the doubt in myself and in others to say, no, this is what's right for me. I'm going through with this no matter what. Once again, I can't speak for whether or not Nex wanted to medically transition. And once again, if they didn't want to, that is absolutely valid, and it would have been beautiful. Sorry. They deserved to experience whatever they wanted. But looking at myself in the mirror lately and noticing, like, my wispy little facial hair and my jaw squaring out and my body changing and my voice deepening, and remembering the journey that I've taken to get here, and the joy that I feel. If Nex had wanted to medically transition and they felt similar to how I felt back then, it breaks my heart that they never got to experience this. Regardless of whether or not they wanted to medically transition, they still deserved to live in a community that saw them for who they are and respected them and treated them well. And that was ripped away. Going through and editing the video in this portion, it really opened my eyes to the fact that I wasn't that far off in my writing of things that are still happening today. And that scares the shit out of me. Queerphobic bullying is still alive and well in this stupid country and around the world. And it claimed the life of a kid who just wanted to be seen for who they are. I know many of us have seen the video of a reporter interviewing chaya, I think, chaya raichik, the woman who runs Libs of TikTok. And while it's pretty funny to see that she's literally incapable of coherently stating her reasoning behind her bigotry, and there's no real thought out ideology behind her actions.
Which I believe you suggested in a post today.
No, I never suggested that.
Oh, okay. You reposted a post that was advocating for that. What would happen to the people that have already medically, socially, completely transitioned and are leading happy lives? What would happen to them? I mean, what's your plan for that? If transgenderism doesn't exist, which it seems like that's what you believe, what happens to all the people living happy lives as trans people?
Well, first of all, the whole trans it's based on a lie. You can't change your gender.
Okay, but
so they could go live their life. I mean, I can't tell someone what to do in their house.
Sounds like you do want to tell people what to do in their house.
I never said that.
So you're totally okay with people being trans, just not as long as they're in public?
No, I never said that. They could. The whole thing is based off of a lie, and I think that this lie cannot be mainstream in our society. It's a lie.
And what harm is it causing, do you believe?
I like the truth. I like truth.
Right, but I'm saying what's the harm of people expressing their gender identity differently than you believe it to be? What harm are they causing?
Like I said, we are a nation of truth, and I seek the truth.
But I'm asking about the harm. What's the harm? You might believe it to be false, but what's
the harm? Is that there's a lie that is very mainstream and is being embedded into every institution.
I guess I'm wondering what the material harm is. Aside from it's maybe something that you disagree with, as in your version of the truth is different than their version of the truth. What is the material harm of them living their life as a woman or man or gender that you don't agree?
Not anything that's wrong is there a material harm necessarily.
So there's no harm.
I didn't say that.
In the interview, she just flounders about truth being important in this country. While it's pretty funny to watch, it's also, the longer you think about it, it's so depressing. This woman hate mongers and encourages attacks on queer people and institutions that offer queer people grace and offer them kindness. And she indirectly encourages her followers to attack people who treat queer individuals as human. Just the disconnect between her not being able to string a fucking sentence together that makes sense about why she believes the things she believes, and the fact that her hate campaign against the queer community now has a body count, and she is doing tangible harm to children and people who just want to fucking exist. It fills me with rage. These monsters claim to care about children, but they don't. They don't care about children. Kids in this country have to go to school every day fearing gun violence, racism, homophobia, transphobia. They fear not having enough food to eat or not having enough money for school supplies. Kids in this country have so much on their shoulders, shoveled onto their shoulders by these Republican lawmakers who are more concerned with happily, cheerfully mowing down the rights of people who are capable of pregnancy in this country in favor of clusters of cells that may not even be viable outside of the womb. They're heartless ghouls. They don't care. They just want to win the culture war. It's just a game. And they don't care that it's killing people. Fairly early on in my queer identity discovery, I decided that I want to be as loud as possible, as often as possible about my identity, and be as openly queer as can be, as long as it doesn't pose an immediate threat to my physical safety. I want to use my white privilege for good and to use it to help normalize queer and gender nonconformity throughout society as much as possible, so that it'll make a safer society for trans and queer people of color to openly be themselves. And I don't want to position myself as a white savior. I am one person. But I do want to acknowledge my privilege, and I want to use it for good. I want to help make this place safer for everyone to express themselves however they want. Especially because trans people of color and, people of color in general are at a much higher risk for being the victim of hate crimes. Basically, I just want to be as open about myself as possible in as many situations as I can to normalize it for wider society so that everyone can feel safe being who they are. I love this community with all of my soul. I would die for this community. I would do anything for it. I plan on fighting till my dying breath for this community, for trans people, for queer people, for everyone. And for the love of Marsha P. Johnson, protect trans kids. Protect queer youth. We need to fight for trans rights. And crucially, one thing that doesn't get enough attention, and one thing that we need to elevate as much as possible, is trans joy. There's a lot of really sad statistics out there, and those do need to be highlighted. We do need to pay attention to the disproportionate amount of harm that our community experiences, but we also need to show the joy. We need to be as proud as possible to be who we are and show them that it is possible to be trans and happy. I mean, transitioning has made me the happiest I've ever been. I love my body. I love the path that I'm taking in life. I love it so much. And I want everyone who wants to do the same to be able to do so openly and show their happiness. Next Benedict should have been able to show that joy openly. They should have felt safe at school. Sorry for this very long rant. Thanks for hanging in with me and listening to me cry. If you are part of the community, if you're trans, if you're queer, if you're anything, I hope you're safe. I hope you feel comfortable expressing who you are. And if not, I hope that you can one day. Thank you for listening to me ramble.